Okay, so let's get started on our painting. The first thing you want to do is get all set up and have everything in the right place. I like to have all my paints together. You want a cup of water, a bowl that you don't mind getting dirty, your palette, your 3 brushes, a paper towel, your pencil for drawing, and then you're going to notice on the back of your canvas you get these kind of wood pieces. Now what these are meant for, you could just toss them or you could use them, it's completely up to you, but what they're meant for is to go into the back of the easel into these little slats, and it just keeps the canvas 90 degrees, just keeps it kind of set. So again, it's totally up to you if you want to use them or not, but that's how they are used. I'm having a hard time getting that one in. There you go. And you put them around all 4 corners. So let's get started. We're going to be doing an abstract still life today. I'm just going to be doing it out of my head, and what we're going to do is a bowl of fruit. So when we start with a bowl of fruit, what you want to do is actually start with the bowl, that oval center part of the bowl. It's the biggest shape that you're probably going to have in the picture. And then we're going to go on to the base of the bowl. I'm going to keep this kind of a simple bowl shape. Again, this is going to be an abstract still life. We don't want this to look too perfect. We want it to be kind of childlike, reminiscent, think Van Gogh, Matisse, that kind of genre of painting. Then we're going to get into the fruits. I'm just going to have some simple maybe circles kind of coming in for different shapes. You could do maybe a pear-like shape. You could do smaller, think of grape type shapes. Whatever you kind of want to have in your bowl. Am I going to put this in front? Have fun with it. Again, it's very loose, very free. And when you feel comfortable with your drawing and you have it where you want it to be, we're going to start with our paint. And when you start painting, you want to start with your biggest brush first. Now, when you receive new brushes, you can feel that they're pretty hard. What you want to do is just break that up and get them nice and soft for use. I don't know if you can see, but there's kind of like a dust coming off of the brush. So I'm going to just make it nice and loose. And I'm going to start with what's called either a scrub or an underpainting. You call it different things. And what it is very thin paint. So water, if you see kind of these brush bristles come off, just pull them out. You don't want them to get into your painting. So I'm going to take a lot of water and I'm going to use what's called burnt sienna. It's a very reddish brown. I'm going to put it in my palette, again with a lot of water. So it's almost the consistency of a watercolor. Let me get a little bit more in there. Burnt sienna is a great underpainting color because the red in it really counteracts greens and blues and works pretty nicely. So I'm going to load up my brush and I'm just going to do a quick, there's no right or wrong here. You just don't want it to glob up too much. I'm going to go pretty much over the whole thing. Now make sure that you don't lose your drawing. You want to still see your drawing. And I can still see it. I'm not sure if the camera is capturing it as well, but you want to make sure you don't lose that. I'm going to need a little bit more. Some water. A lot of water. Goes a long way. And say it gets a little globbed up, you can even just take a little bit of water and spread it out some more. Again, the thinner the better, because one, you want to see your drawing underneath, and also the more water, the quicker it kind of dries, because it's not a thick paint. And I'm going to show you in just one second what you want to do. Once you get everything covered, you want it to be fairly, you don't want to have all these brush lines necessarily. You want it to be kind of nice and flat. So what I'm going to do is just take my paper towel, actually going to rip it in half, and fold it up on itself. And I'm going to even out that paint, the underpainting, by just wiping it down, getting one nice texture, tone all around the background. And that way, it will dry a little quicker. So then we can get started on the object. If you notice that your paint is mixing in with the underpainting a lot, you might want to let the underpainting dry. It's completely up to you how much you want it mixing with your paint and the look that you want. For instance, if I start now, I'm going to start with some blue, and make sure when you are switching colors, this is probably one of the most important things. I don't want to dirty any of these beautiful pure colors that I have here. I want to keep them very clean. I can use my palette to mix any colors that I need. So if I have blue on my paint, I do not want to go directly into that red because it's going to really muddy my red. What I want to do is wash off my brush fully and dry it off. When I load up with another color, I don't want to mess it up. So I'm going to use a little bit of black. I want a deep blue. I put in a little too much black. Black is a very strong paint. It overpowers, other colors very quickly. Just be weary of that a little bit when you are painting. I'm going to use quite a bit of blue. And I want kind of a deep, dark blue for my bowl. I'm going to go in, and I'm going in with my bowl first, and I'm going to have these big, broad brush strokes, because remember, this is a abstract still life. It's very geometric. It has just broad, thick paint that's typical with abstract, and nice defined brush strokes. I'm also going to add some of that back in here. And I like how it's mixing with the, I want to actually have my bowl a little bit bigger over here. I like how it's mixing with the brown in the background, the burnt sienna. So it's kind of my first phase. Next, I'm going to go into the background, and I want a white. And I kind of want that white to mix a little bit with the brown. Again, I want a very clean brush, especially going in with the white. I'm going to take a lot of white and keep it clean over here. And I'm going to go in. I want kind of bold paint. I want big, fat brush strokes. And I want that underpainting to kind of come up some. I'm not going to cover the whole background with the white. I go right up next to that. And fill this in. I love doing abstract kind of realistic slash paintings because you have so much freedom. You're not trying to match anything exactly. You can do it totally from your head. You're not trying to make it realistic. You're just trying to get the idea of something. Someone can recognize it, but it doesn't really look exactly like it. It's almost like the feeling of it, not the actual, photo duplication of it. So I'm going to put that in. And I like to have some areas with the underpainting just kind of poking through, kind of like along, the edges a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to use really thick paint. I like the look of that. You can get a little messy. But again, you want the texture. That's what makes it really interesting. There's a lot more white out. Build it up wherever you want. You can stop when you want. I'm actually going to use a little bit of this white too and just bring out kind of the front in here. I want to show that that is the direction of the light, and to add a little depth to my bowl. There we go. From here, again, I'm going to wash off my brush. I'm going to go in with a smaller brush. I'm going to put my big brush aside, make sure it's clean. You don't want any acrylic paint ever really drying on your brush, because once it's dry, it acts like a hard glue and it won't ever come off and it will ruin your brushes. You also want to make sure when you are finished with your brush, you kind of form it back into a nice brush shape, so when you come back to use it the next time, you have a really nice brush. So I'm going to go into a little smaller brush. Again, it's a new brush, so I'm going to just make it a little softer, get any bristles that are loose out of there. And I'm going to go in with some colors for the fruits. I actually love a Viridian green. It's kind of if you add white to Viridian green, I'll just show you kind of what it looks like. It's almost like a minty green. It's a very bright, bold green. And I love that color, but I also love just the pure Viridian green. And I might even add a little bit of blue into it. So I'm going to take a little bit of this. And I'm going to take a little bit of the blue that I had mixed for the bowl here and add it in. So I want to have a hint of blue. I'm going to go in with my fruits. Again, big, bold brush strokes. I'll do one over here. I'm going to also make a purple. So for a purple, I'm going to take some red, and I'm going to take some of that deep blue again that I had mixed. A little bit of black. I want kind of a darker purple. I don't want too light of a purple. And I'm going to go in with kind of these shapes. And you can't see the individual circles. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of a light white and just add it kind of this side of some of those. Then I'm going to mix up a lighter shade of blue. So blue and a little bit of white. And add in actually a little bit of green. And add in this shape over here. I kind of like that color, like a teal color. Have fun with the colors. You know, you don't have to follow this exactly. You can do really anything you want. There's no right or wrong. And finally, my last fruit. I'm going to use that green again and get that in down here. Okay. So at this point, I am actually going to let some of it dry. I'm kind of cleaning up some edges here. And then go into the fruits a little bit more with a few darker shades. So now I feel like I look at it and I want a little pop of color. I'm not super happy with the green. It's not my favorite. And that might happen in a painting. You might realize, you know what, I don't really love that color. And I ran out of space on my palette, so all I do is I wipe it out with a paper towel and a little bit of water. And I'm going to wipe out I am going to mix up, I want kind of an orange. An orange works really nicely with blues because it's the opposite. It's a complementary color of blue. It's the exact opposite. So when you put them next to each other, they bounce and they pop a little bit more. So that is what I want to do. So I'm mixing up an orange with some red and some yellow. A little bit more yellow. Now if your water gets really mucky and gross, you can also just change it out. Just dump it and change it. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stir a little bit of red. And I'm going to go over the green. It's kind of still wet, so it's mixing a little bit, but that's fine. I kind of like the contrast for right now. I also want to start layering some of my paint, getting it a little bit thicker. I want a little bit more blue in the bowl, making it thick. So I'm going to mix a little bit of that darker shade that I had. And I'm going to mix less water with my paint because I really want it to be nice and thick. It's always good to have a little bit more of a color that you mix than too little, just in case. Go in, I want it pretty dark in here. Now I'm going to really lay down that paint and get a nice thick, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here. I want also kind of these nice straight lines. Here I'm going to go a little bit darker and go up right next to those shapes. Really makes it pop a little bit, and I'm liking that. So at this point you really, like I said, want to go thick with the paint because we're building it up. The nice thick paint is really good quality. I have a little bit lighter shade. Add that in over here. Again, thick. And I think that the pear needs a little bit more paint as well, just to make it pop. I'm going to take some pure white and add that in here too. Creating a contrast between the dark and the light adds a lot of depth. And I'm going to mix up a little bit of that pear color that I had. So a little bit of the black and the blue, and some white, and a hint of the green. I'm not getting it exactly right, but there we go. I kind of like that. Go into the white a little bit. And finally, I might do one more coat of that orange, nice and thick. I don't think I went thick enough to cover, I don't know what they are, like apples or peaches maybe. Unripe peaches. Take this. I'm going to do a big glob. I'm going to leave a little bit of that green there to act almost as like my shadow for it. Now finally, if you want to add any little kind of details, I like to have some sharp lines. Now I'm not going to break up this brush too much because I do like that tip to it. I'm going to go in and I'm going to take some dark colors and just clean up. Maybe I had a few little like fun lines in here just to get some fine detail. Just kind of cleans it up a little bit. And I don't want to add too many long straight lines. I just want to add a few that really kind of make a difference. In there. So right here too. All right here. You know what? I am going to add a little dark shade on these little grapes to make them pop. Okay. And I feel pretty good about this. I might just call it. I might put a little bit more white just to have a chunk coming right up next to the bowl. I'm really laying it down thick. And pick a few spots to do that to really kind of get a lot of paint. I'll do it on the floor right here where it would hit. There you go. Feel good about this. I am going to call it and have that be my abstract still life.